Intelligent talk that's sure to raise the IQ.
Here's Guy Wehman, Ben Brunson, and Frank Vernuccio inside the news.
Welcome back to our next segment of Inside the News. This is typically our international segment. We've got Frank Vernuccio, top left, Guy Wehman in the top right, and Ben Brunson, he's in the bottom middle. Welcome back, gentlemen. Welcome back, Frank.
Great to be with you.
Ben, welcome.
Welcome, guys.
All right. And then we're going to get off of the debate, but we were talking off air about a lot of different things. And there's a point when Donald Trump got into it a little bit with Chris Wallace. And then Wallace says, well, maybe you should come down here and be the moderator. At that point, he should have said, why don't you come on up here and take the podium with Biden? We'll get a non-biased moderator. That would have been great, wouldn't it, Ben?
That would have been a good comeback. And I almost expected Donald Trump to accept that offer to go take the moderator seat. But look, Chris Wallace has his issues. He clearly came into this with a more of a moderator rather than an interviewer type mentality. And he was, I believe, caught off guard as much as Joe Biden was and the audience was, and struggled to regain some semblance of control throughout the entire debate. And that put him off his game, I believe, as well.
Okay, Ben, let's continue with you. The Paris Accords, this came up last night, and Biden just says, we're going back in. And wow, that was amazing. I heard that because being out of it has actually helped businesses all across this country, Ben.
Well, let me say, though, the one strongly positive thing about last night for Donald Trump, which is that on policy, as far as I'm concerned, he was right on all the policy, and Joe Biden was wrong on all the policy. And on facts, Donald Trump was overwhelmingly correct, and I heard a lot of wrong facts, let's put it that way, come out of Joe Biden, including a lot of reiteration of hoaxes like Trump's statement about the military. But on the Paris Accords, that is one area where Trump made a very good point. He made it very clear, and it was very clear during the debate, that Joe Biden will go back to the globalist agenda that exists under Barack Obama.
Yes.
This desire to subjugate the United States to a global agenda, to the UN, to a Paris Climate Accord. When you dig into the Paris Climate Accord, it essentially says it forces energy prices to go up dramatically in this country, and it lays the table, frankly, for claims against the United States by poorer nations, which essentially means the U.S. taxpayer will have to start shelling out money to people all over the world. Once you start down that path, where does that ever end? It doesn't end until we're bankrupt and destitute in this country, as far as I'm concerned. And Donald Trump did the right thing in pulling out of that monstrosity of a treaty. The polluters in the world are China and the developing nations like India. The U.S. and East and Western Europe are actually fairly clean economies as it goes. They're big energy consumers, but they're fairly clean. And the Paris Treaty and those types of treaties really do nothing to address the fact that China still relies on coal and dirty coal plants on a staggering basis to produce energy. And that's the reality. And nothing we're going to do in any treaty, believe me, the Chinese will never voluntarily give up what they need to do to grow their economy, which means they've got to always produce energy the cheapest way they can do it. And that's typically dirty energy.
You know, Frank, Donald Trump has gotten us out of some really bad deals. That Iran deal, he got us out of that. The Paris Accords, just what Ben was talking about. That Pacific Ring deal, it's not the TPC because that's the Tournament Players Championship. That's a golf thing. But I think you know what I'm talking about. He got us out of NAFTA. Those are four major treaties that Trump has said, we're out of here.
Yeah, in fact, Joe Biden actually agreed with the president on NAFTA, not at the debate. On the Paris Climate Accord, it's really important to note something, and I'm surprised the president really didn't say this. If every signatory to the Paris Climate Accord, indeed, if every nation in the world fully complied with the accords of the Paris Climate Treaty, it would make a 0.3 degrees centigrade difference within 100 years. Not enough to make any difference whatsoever in terms of the climate. The Paris Climate Accords is misnamed. It really is the Paris Transfer of Wealth Accords from the developed world to the third world. That's really all it is. And if the president had made that point last night, after Biden said he would go back into the Paris Climate Accords, I think he would have won over a lot of people who didn't realize that the Paris Climate Accords are essentially a fraud. They have nothing to do with climate and everything to do with wealth transfer from the United States and Western Europe to the rest of the world.
And we're talking about climate here, and I've got to get on my little soapbox here, Ben, because I turned into the Weather Channel this morning. They were hitting climate change like crazy, just hammering this thing. And they're owned by NBC, and that has been their agenda from day one. And thank goodness that my little Roku thing now has AccuWeather. And so goodbye, Weather Channel. There you go, Ben. I led you up.
Well, what's really amazing about the climate change debate these days is that you never hear data presented.
Right.
The reason you don't hear data presented anymore is because the data doesn't support the theory anymore. What you hear is anecdotal stories. Oh, there are big fires out west, so there must be climate change. Oh, we have a hurricane. Imagine that. I've lived in Florida a good portion of my life. There have been major hurricanes hitting this state since time has been recorded. A lot of the worst hurricanes happened a long, long time ago, like the Galveston hurricane, which I believe was in 1905, was one of the worst to hit this country in terms of death toll and property damage. It's silly to have these anecdotal stories be the basis of your narrative that there's climate change. And I will point to the greatest indicator there is with regards to sea level change. That is the price of homes on the Miami coastline or the Florida coastline. They continue to go up. A home that sold for $5 million 25 years ago sells for $25 million today. And these are homes that have a seawall out back, and they're literally 12 feet above mean high tide. Right? When you can't give those homes away, I'll believe that sea level rise is about to get serious. But when Barack Obama and his wife spent $12 million on a home 150 feet off the ocean on Martha's Vineyard, I have to say, well, gee, something's not quite right. The guy who's been talking about sea level rise for the last 15 years obviously doesn't believe his own story.
All right, we're going to have to take a time out there, and you can contact Ben at benbrunson.com, and you can find his books at benbrunson.com and amazon.com. Frank Vernuccio at usagovpolicy.com. We're going to take a time out. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.